Welcome back. As we continue our series with 6/8 Oath for Service, we are here with our part 3. If you're following with us, part 1 was do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with our God. For part 2, we talked about never do for the poor what the poor can or have the ability to do for themselves. And today we will be talking about the concept of limiting one-way giving to emergency situations only. When we give expecting nothing in return, we unintentionally communicate just that we expect nothing because we believe you have nothing of value to offer me. And I know we don't intend to do that. That's not our intention, but unintentionally we communicate that. And so anytime you come across somebody who is in need, it's very important to ask the question, is this need a crisis or is this need chronic? And so triage may be appropriate intervention in an emergency, for example, but is hardly a strategy for the long haul. And so victims of a natural disaster, if you look at that, need immediate medical, shelter, food, and hordes of volunteers. But over time, the survivors' needs shift, and we have to put a plan into place for development. And what does that look like? Anyone who serves with the poor over a long period of time will begin to notice this pattern. And I take this from Robert's book, Toxic Charity. And this pattern kind of arises. You give once and you elicit appreciation. You give twice and you create anticipation. Give 3 times and you've created an expectation. Give 4 times and it becomes an entitlement. And then giving 5 times, you've established a dependency. And it's not our goals, but over time that tends to happen with one-way giving where you expect nothing in return. Now, I understand one-way giving seems like the Christian or maybe the right thing to do when you give freely and you expect nothing back. But it undermines the very relationship that we're trying to create with the person we're trying to serve and to build. This charity, like I said, subtly implies to the recipient that you have nothing of value that I desire. And that's something that we don't want to do. And so we have a responsibility. We have to being creative. How do we serve creatively, knowing our own need and asking for something in return that the receiver can give back? And so I share this story that I share in our 6/8 volunteer training. And so I'll share it here again too. I had the opportunity a couple of years ago to help a friend of mine who was in need of putting together some raised gardens in their front yard and in their backyard, and they were putting together these gardens and they needed soil moved, right? They needed bags of everything and they needed wood and stuff to be constructed. And I have the gift of moving things, right? I can move stuff and well. So that's my gift to the world, right? And I'm doing this and serving, and this person after a while just started getting worked up and was, visually just getting worked up. And I was like, what's going on? And they said, I just feel useless. I feel like I can't help. You're doing all this work for me and there's nothing I can offer you. And I wish I could give back. And it was very hot that day. And we were outside working and I was getting exhausted and I needed some, inspiration or motivation. So I thought, I had heard this person sing before. This person could sing incredibly well. And what would make my job a lot easier is if somebody was singing, right? Or if there was music going on. And so I just said, well, you could sing. You could sing while I work. And they did. They busted out right there. And it was the best. Made the rest of the work just way lighter and way more enjoyable. And we both were able to give what we were talented and able to offer. And I share that story because when we serve, we have to, again, be creative. Sometimes what the recipient is giving in return looks different. And I have to, and as the giver, I have to look at myself and say, I have different needs that I can't meet myself. Right? And so it's a beautiful thing, and the relationship is strengthened that way. And both people have the dignity of not just being seen as a charity case with nothing to offer. So like I said, when tragedy happens, emergency happens, we need to be there and to give freely, right? A fire happens and a family loses everything. sudden a loss of a job or illness, it is right that we should jump in and immediately show up and say, what can I do? How can I help? Do you need food? Do you need money? Do you need childcare? In what ways? I'm here for you, right? And that's appropriate. But after the bleeding stops, after a couple of weeks of getting your groceries taken care of, it is time to start working on an exit plan. It's time to start looking for ways to build capacity. It's time to come up with a development plan and empower the person that we're serving. And so that is vital for us. I'll remind, if you haven't, look back at the last video. I shared 2 stories of growing up on the farm and how my dad is expert at building capacity with the tractor story and the farm checkbook. Go check that out. I won't share that story again. But ways of when our giving has to do more, it has to be able to build capacity and not leave somebody in a dependency. And so that's my challenge, is to do that. Find ways that our one-way giving is only limited to emergency, and look for a 2-way giving and reciprocity that way. So with that, I hope if you haven't checked out the previous videos, start with the one. Sarah did a great job in the introduction in part 1, part 2, and then stay with us. We're going to keep doing this for the next couple of months. Stay with us as we do more videos in the series. Love to have you stay doing that. And to end, I will say, let's make a commitment together to serve our neighbors and to serve them well, to serve them in a way that helps and doesn't harm, to serve them in a way that transforms both of us.